Today's topic is a brief roundtable discussion that evolves around problems and concerns that people would have with their shop floor application. And we thank you for allowing us to do this presentation today. My name is Anthony Etzel. I am the Solutions Executive for Crossroads RMC. I've been working with the BPIC/LX product since the early to mid 1990s. Focus specialization is on the shop floor, the manufacturing side of things, as well as inventory in the warehousing. And I'm going to pass this over to Fred Davey, who's one of our senior business consultants, who's also going to be participating on this discussion. Fred.
Good morning, folks. My name is Fred Davey. And like Tony, I've been working with BPICs and the ERP-LX since, I guess, 1996. During that time, I've worked with every version I think that there is of BPICs or LX. And quite frankly, my systems development and implementation and consulting expertise was a result of over 15 years of manufacturing and materials management experience. I got working with companies. I was very fortunate to work with companies such as the Raymond Corporation, Carrier Corporation, Light Railway Bearing. But my direct implementation leadership began with Raymond Corporation, where we created our own systems development, but also working with Carrier and Mohawk Fine Papers. I've also worked with several divisions of Tyco International to help them with their upgrades and their special applications. And other divisions include Pepperidge Farms Division of Campbell Soup, Maple Leaf Foods in Canada, and ICI Chemicals. I have worked with several different types of organizations, if you will. And now I'd like to introduce my good friend, Frank Petrazio.
Thanks, Fred. Hello, everyone. How you doing? I'm Frank Petrossi. I'm director here at Crossroads. I joined it earlier this year. I've been hired in to build that BPICS practice along with Tony. At this point, we have a full team of application and technical consultants on staff. You know, we are the largest practice now in the U.S. Most of you might know this. We're already partnered with Infor on the bond side and the LX side, so we cover two fronts there. I personally have worked with BPICS for over 25 years myself, all areas, finance, manufacturing, supply chain. I came up through the technical ranks to project manager and then promoted to director. So I want to thank everyone for the opportunity today to discuss the topic of shop floor and inventory. At this time, I'll send it back to Tony.
Really, to kick this off a little bit, some thoughts for discussion. These are some bullet points for you to look at, talking about maybe your deployment of the information to the floor, having downtime issues, what kind of feedback are you getting? Is your LX database properly set up to give you the desired results in your routing file and work center files as it relates to scheduling or capacity? And are you in fact using different types of scheduling approaches on the entire shop floor, or one different scheduling approach, for example?
This is Vanessa from Berkshire Hawk.
Hi.
What are the main tools people are using for scheduling?
Depends on how you've defined your shop floor capability. And that, of course, resides in the way your work centers or production lines are defined in your data management files. So, based on the way they're configured and the way you set those values up in those files, then MRP and planning itself can use those values to offset against your load, the load being the orders, to tell you what is the best approach and when you're about to exceed your capabilities.
One of the pitfalls that I see, just taking scheduling a little bit further, companies that I deal with run capacity planning. Do I have the capacity that can facilitate what the demand is? Oftentimes, I see that the parameters that are set, I'll give you an example, the number of hours at the work center for availability. On an 8-hour shift, I usually set at 8 hours. Reality of it is it really an 8-hour period of time? Is it 7.5? Or is it 7? So a lot of times they're getting not very good capacity information because a lot of the parameters associated with the work center and or the machines are not properly set to give you the more accurate results in terms of your capacity from your schedule.
And once you actually describe your work centers properly, as far as what capacity is available for each work center, your routing is the key instrument there, what I call a critical baseline document that defines exactly what portion of the resource is required to make a given item. And then that will project exactly what amount must be set aside for a given schedule. And you can weigh your schedule against your available capacity to make sure that you're in balance. And if you're out of balance, then you have to figure out ways to utilize such thing as overtime if necessary, or realigning the schedule itself so that the items are made more efficiently because you're utilizing setups more efficiently, etc. There's a lot of variables. So it's hard to give you one particular answer that'll fit what your question was.
What version are you running?
8.5.
You know, Tony, one of the more interesting applications that are available on LX is the lean processing application. And I've had a lot of how to define capabilities using lean manufacturing techniques.
And exactly, lean is one of the techniques that a lot of folks could, in fact, utilize, perhaps.
You know, Tony, maybe I could share with the group a story about one of our clients that has used the full breadth of the product, basically. A company called Black Bear Pumps in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with them back in the early 2000s as they were bringing up their automated data collection product. But they were using, the full breadth of product. They started from the configurator right down through the full shop floor shipping directly. And they had evolved to the point where whatever they sold today is what they built tomorrow and shipped tomorrow. So they basically had over 300 turns of inventory a year. I mean, that's what was capable, but it took a great deal of time for them to realize that their entire shop was not configured the same way. The back shops were set up for Kanban and just in time, and their final assembly process was set up to receive orders directly from order entry and to build the bills of material based right from the configurator as the orders came in. And they were using, several aspects of lean processing for their purchase parts to resupply the final assembly. So there was no MRP needed. There was no capacity planning needed because everything was all based on capable to promise. They knew when they entered the order exactly when they were capable of shipping that product, right down to developing a dock time to ship it. It was really amazing to work with these people, and it kind of showed what can be accomplished when you understand your product enough to be able to define exactly what you're doing to the system and let the system grind the numbers for you.
Exactly. I've worked with that same company many, many years ago, and I know exactly what you're talking about with the results that they had. And what we find often is there is personnel changeover. The original people that may have been taught how to do these things, new people come on board. They don't fully understand what's going on. Oftentimes we find things happening on a spreadsheet, independent of the ERP system, where they're going around looking to see what's on the floor, what can we build today, and they're not utilizing the full breadth of what the LX solution can bring to them because of lack of product knowledge, I would say.
Well, there's also that, Tony, but what I've found in working with several clients is that there's not a dedicated ongoing effort to maintain the data that's in the system. In other words, the companies do a good job initially of setting up the system, but they don't do a dedicated effort to keep it current. Manufacturing is such a dynamic business that it's changed from minute to minute, and there's new processes that occur on the shop floor. There's new jigs and fixtures that are developed by the engineering that are brought forth into the production units. Unless this is explained to the system that these changes have happened, your system becomes, the information becomes degraded. And the first time that someone looks at a report and they see information that they know isn't true, immediately a subsystem develops. Then they start relying on spreadsheets instead of the formal system, rather than fixing the core problem, which is the data in the system. I can't stress that strongly enough. I talk about critical baseline data. That's your routings, your work centers, your item master. Those are your critical components that must be kept accurate at all times.
Fred, that's correct. And one of my sayings that I tell people that I work with is, data is the lifeblood of your company. If that data isn't properly defined and put into the system, the company isn't going to function properly. And as you said, subsystems spring up, patches spring up, and now you're no longer running in an efficient mode, sharing one centralized resource of data with the entire organization. I've seen that multiple times.
Well, unfortunately, I worked with a company that ran into that very problem, and they had to pay an awful price. They very nearly were completely displaced and their job sent to Mexico. It was a company I worked with in Maryland, and they had not kept up their bills and routings, but they felt that they were accurate enough. But when I went in and I worked with them, and I said, I did a cost roll-up of key items and said, are you selling, what are you selling this product for? And I said, you need to sell it for at least $60 a piece or you're losing money. And they laughed at me and said, you must be crazy. We're selling it for $16 and making money. I said, oh, no, you're not. Oh, no, you're not. And then we went through and I said, you show me one of your most popular bills of material, one you feel is absolutely 100% accurate, and I will work with it and we will dissect it. And the results of that was so illuminating to those people that they just were flabbergasted. When I showed them a bill of material that they gave me had 146 items on it, I found 62 errors.
That's amazing.
Now, some of them were very small errors, like unit of measure, amounts, etc., but it distorted the whole cost and direction that the company was looking and evaluating that product from. They were trying to eliminate that product because they thought it was not making money for the company. When in fact, it was actually one of their most profitable products. So what was happening is that sales was trying to obsolete the product instead of trying to push the sales to make more money. They had to sign up for we did a 7-month restructure of all their baseline documents. And the result was that company, those 400 jobs are still in Maryland. They never went to Mexico, and they're alive and well, and the people are using the system.
Thank you, Fred. Would anybody else like to unmute their line and share anything as it relates to your own experiences?
Yes, this is Peter Horton. Can you hear me?
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
All right, excellent. So I do appreciate the story that you guys have shown. I'm in a pharmaceutical company out in Massachusetts, and we're sort of going through a very similar in terms of the evolution, in terms of where your what has been described. We've had several folks that have recently left that have been with the company for many, many years. So a lot of that legacy knowledge resulted in this thing. It really became, we had multiple subsystems in terms of running our shop floor adherence program. So we have been working focused on really what you were calling the critical data elements, really cleaning up our routings. And it was surprising, to the same point that you're making, once when you take a cross-functional team to start looking at, thinking that you had an accurate routing, the reality of life is a lot different. And things, once when a routing has been set, it was tend to only be set if anything that had a major change. But over the years, major changes have been accumulating, and we've been doing a really focused job in terms of focusing on the data elements and then trying to now go back into the system. We have a lot of subsystems, Excel spreadsheets, but it really, I think the important point here is that your data's got to be clean.
100% agreed. The data's got to be clean, accurate. It's like anything else. If it's not right, it's not going to give you the desired results that you're looking for, and therefore you become frustrated and you say the system isn't really worth anything. The system really does a great job in guiding you through the manufacturing process and scheduling process and capacity planning if, in fact, all of your data is correct. And it requires constant review. As Fred said earlier, the manufacturing processes on the floor, in fact, change frequently as modernization of your factory machines, for example, might change. Did anybody ever change that router to reflect an increased speed or something to that effect?
Yeah, I think the benefits that we're seeing with just simple data cleaning, our weekly production meeting, tend to become more of a free fall, and whoever could scream the loudest got their work done first. And really having robust data in there, and then having the folks, a lot of manufacturing, we deal with QA release as part of that discussion as well too. But once we got the data clean up, now we have more positive focus, getting the priorities through the system. So we've seen major, first wave, major progress with just the data cleanup. Now we're going to start rolling that out to try to really optimize the system versus just using all these legacy Excel systems, which ultimately is not sustainable or supportable in the long term.
Right, right. Sounds like you're heading down the right path, doing the right things, and recognizing where you've had some issues and problems, and put a plan together to resolve that.
I think key too is the attitude that you're encouraging improvement, and you're building an atmosphere where people feel comfortable in coming forward. Everybody's got an understands things slightly differently and looks at things slightly differently. And that different perception can make a lot of difference in the approach that is the best approach for a given situation.
Exactly.
I've learned so much. I have learned so much by working with the shop floor people, and it's been very illuminating to me at times on the perception that they have and what is the right way to approach doing a job.
And one of the best kept secrets that I find people don't necessarily take advantage of are alternates, an alternate router or an alternate bill of material. They know that it's not going to take the normal course through the shop floor, and creating the alternate, going down a different path, certainly allows you to get your hands around the planning for that. Maybe it's an alternate material or a combination of both. I find other companies or companies I've worked with don't take advantage of setting up the alternates and using them the way they were designed. Once they realize how they can be used, they go, oh, wow, really didn't know that. Again, it gets back to that knowledge level of things.
What could you sort of give me some sort of education? Again, this is Peter Horton. Really, in terms of scheduled adherence, we're trying to get that measured. Right now, we're measuring it by the work center in terms of the shop order complete date. Is there anything that LXUser has in terms of robust tools or reports like that we can start looking at?
Peter, what version of BPIC are you talking?
We're in the LX version.
8 dot what?
The most recent one. We implemented it back in 2015, so whatever version that might have been.
8.35.
Probably 8.3 point something.
Yeah.
Probably 4 or 5. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fred, do you have anything to share regarding that question?
Well, the shop floor, quite frankly, I like to use things like finite scheduling. I like to use group tech codes and like to be able to leverage those to streamline the schedule to maximize setups, etc. Now, if you're looking for just a measure of what your input and output levels are, you can go right to the work center itself, and the third panel on each work center shows you the input and output history for that work center. So you can get a rough idea about the load versus the output of that particular work center. But I would encourage that you be proactive rather than reactive to it, and that would be the utilization of capacity planning. And now there's a lot of extra measurements in LX or the work center. You can set up your capacity capabilities by by shift. So you could have 2, 3, or 4 different shifts in a particular day for any given work center. And you may have one manning crew for first shift and an entirely different one for second shift, and you may not even run it on third shift. So you can express those differences, those subtle differences, in LX, in the work center itself file. And then when you're running your capacity planning, it will display to you more current reality, if you will, of what's actually going on with the work center. And also, if you are able to group parts of your production by a similar utilization of work centers or utilization of specific setups or even jigs and fixtures that are critical, you can utilize the group tech code and then let finite forward scheduling align your schedule based on that group tech code to show you the maximum, the best way to run your schedule. And then you could actually have finite scheduling do a load leveling for you if you have peaks and valleys in that work center, so that you're more fluid with the amount of work going through that work center. Does any of that make sense to you?
It does. Thank you.
Well, we had this scheduled for a half-an-hour session, and what I'm going to do is, if anybody would have any additional questions or they would like to contact us, if you've participated in this session, send an email to solutions@crossroadsrmc.com, and we'd be happy to spend a few minutes on the phone to answer your particular question that you may have. Sometimes people like to listen and not participate, and that's okay. Hopefully the folks that were on today learned a little bit of something regarding it's important to have the data set up properly to get the expected results, as well as knowing the capacities within the shop floor capacity MDM applications to do the get the job done that you want to get done. With that said, I'm going to, unless anybody else has one more question, we'll entertain one more question. If not, we'll terminate and stop the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for participating, and feel free to contact us. Have a great day.